The Bible is a book of fascinating and intriguing stories. In this video, you will be taken to the pages of a story marked by betrayals, curses, and a destiny as dark as the evil that permeates. Queen Jezebel, an infamous figure whose sinister influence left an indelible mark on the biblical narrative. The story of Jezebel is an impactful lesson on the harsh consequences of evil and challenges to the divine. Jezebel, a rebellious, seductive, manipulative, dominating woman who destroyed many of the Lord's prophets, as narrated in the book of 1 Kings, at the time of the prophet Elijah. The Bible portrays her as a very cruel woman, and, in this video, you will see that all this evil led her to an unimaginable end. The time has come to explore the darkest corners of antiquity and unravel the mysteries behind the figure of Jezebel. Jezebel's story begins with her origins as the daughter of Baal, the king of Sidon, a Phoenician city. Born into a cultural and religious environment deeply linked to the worship of gods like Baal, Jezebel grew up immersed in the traditions and practices of her homeland. Her marriage to Ahab, king of Israel, was arranged as part of a political alliance between Israel and Sidon. Upon arriving in Israel as a fellow queen, Jezebel brought with her not only her royal position, but also her religious beliefs and influences. Baal, the god worshipped in Sidon, was considered a fertility god, responsible for the growth of crops and the prosperity of the land. Jezebel, a fervent follower of this faith, saw the opportunity to spread the worship of Baal in Israel. During Ahab's reign, Jezebel played a crucial role in promoting and accepting Baal as a legitimate deity in Israel. She built temples dedicated to Baal in several cities, promoting priests and priestesses to lead the rituals and encouraging the people to abandon the worship of the God of Israel in favor of the worship of Baal. Baal worship was not just a matter of religious devotion for Jezebel, it was a political tool to strengthen her position and influence. The introduction of this idolatrous practice caused a deep spiritual division in Israel, leading many to turn away from the traditional faith. Jezebel, with her determination and cunning, managed to impose the worship of Baal as an acceptable and even desirable practice in Israelite society. Such was this influence that it lasted even after her death, leaving a legacy of idolatry that lasted for generations. The story of Jezebel is a striking example of how one figure can shape and alter the spiritual course of a nation. The tragic episode involving the murder of Naboth and the subsequent curse pronounced by the prophet Elijah reveals the extent of the evil devised by Jezebel in her relentless search for power and personal satisfaction. 1 Kings chapter 22, Naboth the Jezreelite owned a vineyard near King Ahab's palace in Jezreel. The proximity of this vineyard aroused Ahab's greed, who wanted to transform it into a garden. However, Naboth, rightly attached to the inheritance of his ancestors, refused to sell or exchange it. Upon noticing Ahab's sadness and discontent, Jezebel, without hesitation, took action to satisfy her husband's desires. She devised a nefarious plan to dispossess Naboth of his property, using Machiavellian methods to achieve her goal. First, Jezebel forged letters in the name of King Ahab, summoning the city's nobles and elders to a solemn fast. During this religious event, she positioned two men who the Bible highlights as sons of Belial, who would act as false witnesses. Naboth was falsely accused of blaspheming God and the king, serious crimes at the time. Under the laws of the time, a charge of blasphemy required the death penalty, and Jezebel ensured that the false witnesses played their role in carrying out this evil plot. Naboth was taken outside the city and stoned to death. Jezebel's cruelty and manipulation in this episode shocked even those who were complicit in her plan. This queen's evil was not limited to just satisfying her husband's desires, but extended to corrupting laws and justice, staining the integrity of society. Elijah's prophetic curse, a direct consequence of these actions, echoed through the halls of the palace. Elijah proclaimed that the dogs that licked Naboth's blood, the same fate awaited Jezebel and the entire house of Ahab. Curse was not just a divine punishment, but a solemn warning about the inevitable consequences of the evil perpetrated by Jezebel and her family. Naboth's murder and subsequent curse vividly highlight the moral darkness that enveloped Jezebel, outlining her evil deeds as a dark chapter in the biblical narrative. Jehu's judgment on Jezebel's family represents a crucial point in this biblical story, marking the fulfillment of the prophecies and divine justice against the evil perpetuated by this infamous figure. 2 Kings chapter 9. Jehu, a general appointed by God himself to execute his judgment on the house of Ahab, did not hesitate in carrying out this mission. He had been anointed as king by Elijah, the same prophet who had cursed Jezebel and her lineage. Jehu, therefore, became the hand of God, acting as an instrument of divine judgment. As he approached Jezreel, the city where Jezebel resided, Jehu was confronted by her. Aware of her impending doom, Jezebel did not cower in fear, but chose to challenge Jehu from a window. In a defiant act, she painted her face, seeking to preserve the dignity and majesty she believed she possessed. This dramatic scene portrays not only Jezebel's obstinacy, but also a refusal to submit to divine judgment. Even in the face of impending disaster, she faced Jehu, defying the destiny unfolding before her eyes. The painting of her face, in the midst of her misfortune, can be seen as a final attempt to keep up appearances and impose her will, even in the face of divine wrath. Jezebel's defiance of Jehu not only reflects her arrogant and defiant nature, but also illustrates human resistance to God's judgment. Her defiant stance, however, did not prevent the execution of divine judgment. Jehu, aware of his mission and anointed by God himself, continued to fulfill what he had been assigned. The confrontation between Jehu and Jezebel culminated in the fulfillment of Elijah's prophecies, resulting in Jezebel's death. This biblical passage not only narrates the fall of a powerful woman, but also highlights the inevitability of divine judgment on those who persist in evil. The tragic and horrendous end of Jezebel is a remarkable episode in the biblical narrative, revealing the inexorable fulfillment of the prophecies and the final outcome of a woman who defied divine laws. Betrayed by her own assistants, Jezebel faced the cruel execution of Jehu, the general anointed by God to carry out judgment on her family. Faced with her impending doom, Jezebel found no mercy even among those who had previously served her loyally. The dark context of her death is described when Jehu looked up and saw Jezebel in the window and issued the order for her to be thrown down. Then he said, "Throw her down from there." And they threw her down, and the wall and the horses were sprinkled with her blood, and Jehu ran over her. 2 Kings 9 verse 33. This act, in addition to representing divine justice in action, symbolized the fall of the power and influence that Jezebel had held with cruel hand. After a while, Jehu said to his servants, "Look after that cursed woman and bury her, because she is the daughter of a king." And they went to bury her, but they found only the skull, the feet, and the palms of the hand. 2 Kings 9 verses 34 and 35. The fulfillment of Elijah's prophecy reached its climax when the dogs devoured Jezebel's body. This macabre image, foreshadowed by the prophet, became the reality of those who defied divine law. Dogs, often associated with impurity and dishonor in the culture of the time, were the instruments through which the prophecy came true, transforming Jezebel's end into a shameful death. Jezebel's execution not only ended her life, but also symbolized the collapse of her lineage and the elimination of the evil she represented. Cruel fate that befell her served as a blunt warning about the consequences of disobedience and wickedness. By contemplating Jezebel's death, we can draw lessons about divine sovereignty and the inevitability of consequences for those who persist in the path of transgression. Jezebel's narrative not only records her fall, but also resonates as an important reminder about the unchanging nature of divine judgment. The fate of Jezebel's corpse, despite her position as the king's daughter, is a shocking representation of the harsh consequences of her wickedness and defiance against God. The biblical narrative details how, after her execution and the fulfillment of the prophecy, Jezebel's body did not receive the dignified burial associated with someone of her position. Contrary to the traditions and cultural expectations of the time, Jezebel's body was left unburied, an act that carried a deep symbolic charge. Burial was considered crucial to ensuring proper passage to the afterlife and was seen as an act of respect and honor for the dead. By being left unburied, Jezebel's body was exposed to degradation and contempt. Elijah's prophecy, which predicted that dogs would feed on Jezebel's body, was literally fulfilled. This shocking and dishonorable fate highlighted the intensity of divine wrath and the magnitude of his transgressions. The refusal to give Jezebel a proper burial also sent a powerful message to those who witnessed or heard about this event. It was an eloquent statement about the inevitable consequences of evil and disobedience to God's commandment. The lack of burial for Jezebel symbolizes not only human rejection, but also divine rejection. Her death, and the subsequent treatment of her body, became a tangible testimony to the consequences of defying divine will and treading the path of evil. The story of the fate of Jezebel's corpse serves as a powerful reminder that even among those in positions of power and influence, divine justice makes no exceptions. The dishonor of her body after death serves as a vivid symbol of the harsh and inevitable repercussions in store for those who persist in the practice of evil. And here we come to the conclusion of this epic journey through the story of Jezebel, a queen whose dark choices led her down a path full of tragedies and curses. But, like all good storytelling, the Jezebel saga is not just about evil, it is about the lessons we learn from it. It is a warning about the consequences of disobedience and a reflection on how our choices shape our destiny. The worship of Baal, the murder of Naboth, the defiance of Jehu, and the fate of his corpse reveal a complex web of actions and reactions, a game where the pieces are moved by divine justice. May we, as we contemplate this story, reflect on the choices we make in our own lives. May we learn from Jezebel that evil, however seductive it may be, is not immune to consequences. If you enjoyed this journey through the intriguing universe of the Bible, don't forget to like, share with friends, and comment on your reflections on the story of Jezebel. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more engaging content like this. Thank you very much for accompanying us on this journey. Until the next video, where we will continue unraveling the mysteries that history has in store for us. Stay tuned, and may the search for knowledge never cease.